Hi everyone, Rosemary here again to paint this Witch's Lair pumpkin with you. This is a Lair piece, Lair ceramics, and this is a very creative sculpted piece. It's really done very, very well, and it's a great piece to paint. I went ahead and I base coated the outside in the brown, and you can also put yellow on the inside, which I didn't do on this one, but you can put the yellow on the inside. All right, so I'm just going to walk you through what I did on this piece. If you want to change it, it's your piece. You can do whatever you would like. So I'm going to start with this orange, and I'm using dry brushing brushes, okay, and go against the grain as much as possible so that you keep the brown showing in the crevices. It really shouldn't go on too wet. If it's going on too wet, you're putting, like this one is a little wet, but I'm doing this so that I don't have to take hours to do it with you. But it really should be even drier than that. Don't worry if you get it on other areas. That's why we start with the background. And that's why I didn't paint the hat yet, because I'll be able to cover it with the purple. Now this one brush load, I did one whole coat on the pumpkin. That's because I had a little bit too much paint in my brush. Okay, now go do a second coat. A little bit of paint in the brush, take it out. Now this coat is a lot more orange than the first coat. See the difference? Okay, against the grain as much as possible. And you can see I'm not really being neat with my first coat because all my other colors will cover this orange. I'll pick up a little more orange though. Always make sure you take it out of the brush completely till it's dry brushing the paper towel. See what I'm saying here, how it's dry brushing the paper towel when it gets less in the brush? I did a video right before this one, and my brushes have other colors in them. That's why I wasn't getting a nice true orange out of it. I think I ended with green in this brush. So, and I don't want to wash my dry brushing brushes while I'm using them because once they're wet, they don't look the same anymore. So now I'm doing a third coat, and a third coat again will make a complete difference. And what I do is with pumpkins, I add a little bit of yellow and I add a little bit of red to them. You play with it and you get it to your desired likeness. I mean, the way you want it to look. Someone said to me it wasn't bright enough, so I went back and I added a little bit more of the yellow. So now I'm just picking up a little bit of yellow in the brush with the orange. I'm not cleaning the orange out of the brush. And I'll start with a light hand. And it lightens it up just a little bit more. And you keep going until you're happy with it. Okay, so I'm going to stop at this point. Whoop, what a mess I'm making over here. All right, I'll stop here. And mine is a little bit more orange. I think what we can do here is we could pick up a little bit of red in the brush. Red and the orange together should give me a brighter orange. Maybe a little bit too much red. So this is a mixture of red, yellow, and orange in my brush right now. And that brightens it up a lot. See the difference? So you have to play until you get the color that you really like. And sometimes I go back and I put a little streaks of red. Just gives it more depth. Okay, so it's a little brighter now. It's looking a little bit more like this one looks. And I did get rid of a lot more brown on that one, so it's up to you how much brown you want showing. Now, I always say go across the grain so you don't fill in the brown, but when you have nothing left in the brush, if you want to dust down some of those crevices, you can get rid of some of the brown there too. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to paint the purple on the hat. And what I usually do, now you don't have to worry if you get it on where, you know, these other areas. I wouldn't worry too much. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily put it on where the black is going to go or where the purple is going to go, but it will cover. So the black covers everything. It's the other two colors that you have to be a little bit more careful with. But I'm going to be using, of course I didn't get a brush that I wanted to use. So let me grab another brush. Now, no matter how much I pre-plan these videos and pull everything out that I'm going to need, I always forget something, so I needed a little bigger brush. I'm going to use this brush. Now this purple may be a little bit different than the purple that you have, or it's the same, but sometimes I do a sample and then I can't get the colors anymore, so sometimes the colors are a little bit different. And if you're not happy with the colors, you can always go get colors in Michael's, Hobby Lobby. Now, I do go back and put silver in the stars, so you don't necessarily have to get in the star with the purple, because I go in with the silver and I pull it out. And I try to stay away from these other areas, but I don't get too crazy if it gets on it, because I like to work fast. But you could take your time. See a piece. Oh, I see a piece. Whoever cut this out. Oh, there's a little piece. And they also do put in these, when you've gotten them in the kits, they put in a piece of paper to warn you not to leave a candle unattended. And so I think it's always best to use these fairy lights that I have in there, battery operated fairy lights. I think they're the best. I'm only going to do one coat. My one coat seems to be covering. If you need two coats, you can do two coats. You see the size of the brush I'm using? If you can't work with a big brush like that, that's fine, but I was able to get all around the edge of that band without getting it on there. And then you have to go underneath and try not to get it on the pumpkin. So when you have a square brush, this is called a square shader brush, I put it down and I wiggle my color to the edge and then pull it across. You can only do that when you first put your brush down, when you have a lot of paint in your brush. Get rid of some of it and then scoop it across. And that's how you get a nice edge up against, you know, bordering other colors. And then what you can't do with the big brush, you go back with your small brush. Sometimes I tell people, edge it with your small brush, get your small brush and do all your edging where your color hits, you know, another color. And then go back and do the big areas with the bigger brush. And I prefer a bigger brush because it gets rid of ridges in your paint. If you work the whole piece with a small brush, you're going to constantly have little ridges in your paint. And once those ridges dry, they don't go away. So if you're going to be dry brushing over an area and you have ridges, those ridges will pop even more because they'll be raised areas and be picked up by the brush when you're dry brushing. So make sure you go back and smooth it out all the time. Now, under here, I'm probably going to have to get with a smaller brush because it's right up against the roof area here. I think that has to have a separate brush, a smaller brush. I got most of it. I think I need a little bit more purple though. Now, I'm not being as neat as you should be, because that takes a lot of time. So don't rush it. I didn't do a bad job. And then in here, you could just pick up a little brush and get in here. And that works out pretty well. I didn't get 100% of it, but got most of it. But I do need purple now to do the top part. I'm almost out of purple. And this is Mako's Dusty Violet, number 368. Great color. All right, so now we're going to do the top part. So I first start out, when I have a lot of paint in the brush, I start out on the top. And this way I can have an area to pull it. And this is where you may want to use a smaller brush to edge. Or if you have a big brush like I'm doing, you scoop it across. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing. So I take my brush and I take those flat hairs and I scoop it right across the band. But like I said, the band is going to be black, so you really don't have to worry about it. And then I smooth everything out so that I don't have ridges in my paint before I go for another color, another brush load, I mean. Almost done. Okay. This paper is a pain. Okay. All right, so I have most of it done. I don't have all of it done, but I have most of it done. And you could tweak it. You don't have to rush it like I am. Okay. It's pretty good coverage with this. If you want a second coat, you can go back and do a second coat. All right, so I'm going to put that in the water because I don't really need that brush anymore. And I'm going to do the, what should I do next? Oh, I didn't do purple on the door. Okay, so if you've already, washed your brush, well, you're using dry brushing brushes now. You don't really need to use that big brush. And I'll put purple on the door and on the windows. Now, this had another color in my brush, and that's why I'm constantly wiping it out. You don't need to do it as many times as I did. So it's on the door, right? It's on the door, yeah, and it's not as purple as it should be because, like I said, I had another color in my brush. So my door is going to look a little lighter, but you don't have to do it like I'm doing it. Okay. Yeah, so it's just the door. And then the window and the windowsill. And dry brush from the outer edge in. I go over this on a lot of videos that I do. Don't go out into the pumpkin. Come from the left and the right and toward the center. So you don't get your color that you're dry brushing onto other areas that you don't want it to go on. I'm going to see if I can get a little bit more purple out of this. Oh, there's some in there. I'll do the other window. And everything is done at least twice. The bats on the top of the window are done in black. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to do the window, the door. I'm going to do everything a second time. And the second time will make a big difference in the color because it's getting rid of the other color that I had in the brush. Okay, see the difference in the door now. It's a lot better. It's still a little bit lighter, but it's a lot better than it was. And if I did it a third and a fourth coat, it would even get lighter or more purple instead of whatever else I had in the brush. Okay, I think those are the only areas that are purple. Yeah, so the purple areas. Okay, so now let's see. We have a little bit of yellow, and the yellow I'm going to do on the broom. I'm going to take a small brush. It's not even a dry brushing brush. It's just a small rounded brush. Put a little bit of color in it and kind of go against the grain on the broom from both sides, aiming in to the center. So come from one side and the other side toward the center. From this outer edge and then from this outer edge in. And see how that little brush just kept that yellow and the brown in the crevices? And each time you do it, it gets brighter and brighter. Now this is my third coat, and I think third coat's the charm. See how nice and yellow that is? Now this brush I will wash. I may do the same thing on the gray. Now, if you have a nice clean dry brushing brush, you can use that on your steps. I think I'm going to just use this other brush that I was using and just take most of it out and use it as if it's a dry brushing brush against the grain. From the out, don't go onto your pumpkin. Come from your outer edge in. When you get close to where your orange is, pull, go the opposite way of it, or the broom into the center. I'm trying to see what I did. Okay, and we need it a second time. Now the only thing is with this brush, it stays wet a lot longer. Because I'm not putting it on with a dry brushing brush, which you really should do. But mine are all dirty because I was using them on another video. But with this brush, I was able to achieve pretty much the same look by just using it as if it's a dry brushing brush. Just pulling the color, but the color stays wet longer. Okay, all right, so where are we now? We'll do red, then we'll do the black and the silver and the gold. Okay, so we'll do red next. And the red I did put on with a dry brushing brush. Let's see if I can go from the purple to the red. I have no more red left in here. Not easy to get out. Oh my goodness. Okay, let's see what we can get out of here. Okay, so on here, against the grain, try to keep the shingles showing. Come in from the edge, and then in from the other edge. And then I also have it going down the sides of the door and on the steps of the door. Not the steps, it's just the trim around the door. Is that the only place is red? Okay, the only other place I did red is I accented the edge of the hat with a little bit of the red. See that? Now, if it's too red for you, you can mix a little purple in the brush with it and make it a little bit darker. When I dry brush an edge, I come up and then I also go down if I can. But it's hard to go down on this one because you're going to hit the pumpkin, so maybe just go up. So that's giving my door time to dry, and then I'll go back and do a second coat on that. I don't think you need a second coat on the edge of the hat. I think one coat on here is good enough. But it's your piece. If you want to do more coats, you can. All right, so I have a little accent on the edge. And you can see this hat is a different color, and I can't even get that color anymore. Okay, let's go back and do a second coat on the red on the roof. And around the trim of the door. Okay, now you could do it as many times as you want to get it as red as you want. This one's a little redder. All right, so you could keep going on that. So now the broom handle is done in the, well, you can leave the broom handle in the brown that you have, that you're base coating in. I don't have it handy right now. I have a different brown here. I'll use this one. But you have the dark brown that you did your base coat, and you could, if you went over the handle with the orange, just go back with that base coat brown and put it on the handle. This is a little lighter and it doesn't show up as much, but I did the handle with medium mocha, but I think you have a darker brown. I think you have just dark brown. Okay, so we don't need that one anymore. So I think now we'll do the gold. No, I'll do the gold last. Let's do the black now. Now this is not dry brushed on. This is put on with a soft brush, a nylon brush, not too soft. And it's a good idea to do your edging first. what I'm saying? With a small brush, go around and do your edging. Now, I'm not going to be as neat as you should be, because it is time consuming to do this. So take your time, pause the video. Because you have to do top and bottom edging first. And then don't forget, oops, put my hand in all the black paint already. Don't forget to do the piece inside the buckle in here, this piece here. And if it gets on the buckle, don't worry too much. The gold will eventually cover it. Sometimes you need 2 coats, but it will cover it. Okay, so now I did the top edge. Now I'm going to turn it around and I'm going to do the bottom edge. And then I'll just go back in and fill the middle with a little bigger brush. And I'm working with my hand up in the air, but I always tell everybody, lean your hand. Some people work with their pinky. I have trouble doing that, but lean your hand on your piece. Keep your piece laying flat on the table. So that if it's up in the air, you're going to be shaking. So you don't want to shake. It's hard enough to get a nice edge, but if you're up in the air with your hand, you have a tendency to shake. So I always work with it leaning as much as I can. So now I can put this brush down and use a little bigger brush, but of course I don't have one here. Oh, I have my brushes here. I forgot. So I'm going to take a little bigger brush. I like working with flat brushes, square shaders. I'm going to take that and I'm going to paint the middle. Now this will be a lot easier to do because I've already done all the edging. Of course I need some more black. I'm almost done. And I'm getting it on where the silver pipe is going to go because I know that the silver and gold, 1 or 2 coats will cover. Okay, so I've got the black on there. And that brush goes in water. That's not a dry brushing brush. Now I'm going to go back to the dry brushing brush to do the silver in the stars. I want you to see how I did that. Let me close up some of these so I don't spill them. Okay, so I work a lot out of the caps of my bottles. You heard me banging this, and sometimes when you bang them down, you get a lot more paint out of them, and they're great for dry brushing. It gets rid of the last little bit in the bottle, and with everything going so high in price, I don't like to throw paint away. The last little bit that's in the bottle, I like to use up. Okay, so now you can do this with the dry brushing brush, or you can do this with a small brush. But you're going to put a little bit of the silver in your brush. Take it out. You're going to go into the hole and flip it out. Okay, a little bit of paint. Take it out. Go into the hole and flip in all directions. That flip gives you a kind of a lacy kind of an edge. So you put your brush in the hole. If I can do it with you seeing it. And flip out in all directions. Okay, and you flip out as much as you want to flip out. Hey, flip out, that sounds good, doesn't it? That was funny. At least I thought so. And if you notice, I don't dip every time. There's probably plenty of paint in this brush to do almost every star. And if you didn't get the purple in there, then you might need a smaller brush to paint the purple. You don't want to see white in there. don't forget the ones on the top. You can see all the spots that I've missed on the purple hat. Don't do what I do, do what I say. So make sure that you work slow. Don't rush it. And your piece will look nicer than mine. The sample is good. That I took my time on. But when I'm on these videos, I just try to get through it so that you could just get the idea of how to do it and not have to be bored watching me repaint something. So I did that. Okay, so now with the soft brush, I'm going to go and do the silver. Yeah, the silver. Oh, you know what I didn't do in black? I just realized. The bats on the top of the doorway. And I'm going to continue with the silver right now. What brush was I using? I'm going to use this brush. I'm going to paint this in the silver. See, and the silver is covering the black. And also do, like I said before, edge first. So edge where it comes up to the black of the hat and where it hits the purple of the hat. I always go around and do my edging first. But everybody has their way of working, and whatever works for you is fine. Now I'll come up and do the top. And get it down into the inside as much as you can, so you don't see white showing in there. All right, I believe that's all the silver there is on the piece. It's just the stars and the chimney. And then I'll wash that brush out. I'll go back and I'll do the black on the bats. The bats on top of the windows. It's bats. And I would come down like up to the window pane, because this is painted on, not dry brushed on. Make sure you get those points on the end so they look like bats. Okay, do the other one. This one is more pronounced. Then I went on to the house a little bit, so I just take a little water in my brush and clean it up immediately. If you put a little water in your brush to clean up, make sure you blot the water out first before you go to your piece, or the black will be running down the pumpkin. Okay, there we go. So the two bats are done. Now I'm going to go and do the gold. Duncan's gold and silver are the ones that I'm using here. They're ultra metallics, and Mako is making them now, I hope. Take a little brush and do the doorknob. Yeah, the doorknob and the buckle on his hat. The door handle, it's really not a knob, it's a big handle. But I wanted it to stand out nicely. So I did it in the gold. There's the gold on that. And then we'll do the buckle. Now this you have a lot of edging, excuse me, on the buckle. So use a small brush, a nice soft nylon. And again, I'm edging it in two directions, two ways. I'll do the top edge or the outer edge first, and then I'll go back in and do the inner edge. Okay, so I just did the outer edge. Now I'll come in and do the inner edge. I don't do it all at the same time because my brush changes directions, and I think that you get too much. If you just try to do the whole thing, you're not seeing it from the same angle. So if I'm doing the top edge, I'm looking at it from this angle. If I'm doing the bottom edge, I do it from the other angle. But like I said, you work the way you're comfortable. Okay, here we go. I have some black spots that are still showing that I have to touch up. But pretty much that's it. Now, I did glitter certain areas on here, and the areas that I glittered were the surrounding of the door, the red. I glittered the windows and the bats. I didn't glitter the steps. I like a contrast between my glitter and the duller areas on the piece. So usually I spray it with a matte spray or use a paint on matte sealer and then glitter the areas you want to glitter. So I glittered the hat band and I glittered in the stars. And again, I did that by flipping the brush. Look at that. Take a little bit of paint and you could just paint some glitter coming out of each star like so. Just the way you put the silver on. You can enhance it with a little bit of silver. I'm sorry, a little bit of glitter. And then I painted the glitter on the black, and don't put it on too heavy. The glitter is white, but it goes on white and it dries clear. So I pull it out when I first do it. See, I have some on there and it's a little bit white, but I don't put it on and leave a blob of white like that. I don't do that. I pull it out because I don't know if, I think it'll just dry fine. And if you want more glitter, you can always do a second coat. The glitter goes very far. If you can see, I have nothing left in this bottle. I'm just scraping the sides and I'm still getting plenty. Don't forget the middle part of the buckle. Okay, and then I also did it on the top of the outline of the door. So that's the roof. Wherever the red is on the door, I glittered the red. But you could, you could choose to do it wherever you'd like. I mean, when I do these classes, everyone does a different, does it differently. And they're nice. I get ideas from seeing people's ideas. It broadens my knowledge. It's nice because I don't want to do a lot of pieces, a lot of samples of the same item. I'm constantly doing samples and videos. So it's nice when I get to see somebody else's interpretation of the piece. Now, those of you who follow me know that I do a lot of library classes in Nassau and some in Suffolk County on Long Island. And you could, so this is why a lot of these are pieces that have to be done in, say, 2 hours, because then the library closes. They're usually at night and we have to get out of there. So they're not very intricate pieces. I mean, this is something I painted a long time ago. This is what I like to do. But those kind of things take forever to do. Here's another piece a friend of mine just did. Look at this magnificent piece. Isn't that beautiful? And this took her weeks and weeks to do. I do have it in a smaller version, right here. And I think I have done this with a library. This is a little more doable. Okay. But most of the pieces have to be done within 2 hours. They all have to be done within 2 hours. So I have to paint a piece that looks like it was a lot of work, but it can't be a lot of work. So I think I do a pretty decent job of getting that across and coming up with pieces. And Lair is coming out with a lot of beautiful pieces. So if you're ever interested in looking on their website, it's Gare, G-A-R-E.com or GareCeramics.com. I'm not exactly sure. I just type in Lair and I find it. And look at their bisque. And they have a great assortment of bisque, and I can get a lot of pieces that are on there if anyone is interested. So let me know. Thank you so much again for watching my videos. Please subscribe to me here on YouTube. If you have any questions also on YouTube here, you can ask, or go to Rosemary Ceramics on Facebook and follow me there. And please subscribe to me. So thank you again, and have a very happy Halloween, and enjoy painting this creepy house. It's not supposed to be creepy, but it's a cute little house. It's called the Witch's Lair Lantern, and it's adorable no matter which purple I use, right? It looks really cute. And that's a fast version, so. Doesn't this one look bigger than this one? In my iPad, it does. But they're not. I guess just the colors make it look different. But they're the same piece. So again, enjoy. Have fun. Happy Halloween.